Zeboyd, come play with us.
Okay, hello, welcome. I am Robert Boyd from Zeboyd, and this is my review of Diablo 4. Diablo 4, I am a big fan of the gameplay genre that Diablo pioneered and popularized. My favorite game in the genre is Path of Exile. I was also a big fan of Titan Quest and Grim Dawn, and I enjoyed past Diablo games, so I was excited for Diablo 4 to come out. However, after playing it for a bit, I find it hard to muster up the enthusiasm to keep playing. I feel a big problem with the game is how the monster levels just automatically scale up with the player. It makes it feel like you're not really progressing, or in fact, that leveling up is a negative thing to do. So, yes, it feels like with the enemies scaling up, that leveling up isn't a fun thing. This is compounded by the level up system the game has, where you have a number of abilities and passives that you can gain. It doesn't have the depth and complexity of something like Path of Exile's level up system. With in Diablo 4, most of the passive abilities are very, very minor and they don't really lead to anything. So while you can take a bunch of them and it can help construct your build and make it work properly, they're not very exciting. Similarly, the abilities that it has have a few modifiers that you can select to make them a little different, but this seems this feels like a step back from Diablo 3, where every single ability had drastic modifiers that you would automatically gain as you leveled up, which could completely change the how the skill worked, its damage type, and make it feel like a completely new skill. And that aspect of the game is just completely gone and makes the leveling up process a lot less interesting than it was in the past. In conjunction with the issues with the enemies leveling up, I want to mention the open world. Open world games have become very popular of late, with the new Zelda game just coming out and being a huge success, and that being, you know, all about the open world. And a personal favorite of mine, Elden Ring, came out uh, a few months ago, and it took Dark Souls and added an open world, and it worked really well. And I feel in Elden Ring it works really well because you have the ability to go to new areas. If you get stuck, you can try somewhere else. Or if you are willing to take a chance, you can try to go to areas that are more difficult than you would want and try to get the rewards from those areas. But with Diablo 4, it feels like the open world is just a lot of busy work because there isn't a whole lot of difference depending on which way you go. Uh, your the abilities that you get in Diablo 4 are mostly randomized, and with the enemies all being capped at whatever level your character is, it doesn't feel like it really matters where you go. You just go someplace, get a random reward that may or may not be better than the equipment you already have. And so the open world doesn't feel like it serves any point. It's not like you can go to a super hard place and then get super good equipment from it. You are just going whatever direction, the story is telling you to go and doing the same sort of things that you did in every other area. So I feel like that is a major problem with the game. Also, I feel like the itemization isn't very interesting. Although there are many different slots you can equip, the stats that you get for equipment is mostly very basic. You get armor and basic stats, which it could increase your damage or give other bonuses, and then things like critical chance and critical damage. And a lot of it just feels like making numbers go up and doesn't feel like it's really changing how the gameplay works. It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of flexibility to make your own unique builds in it compared to other games in the genre. Now, maybe this is just because it's a new game and people are still trying to figure it out, and maybe it gets much more interesting at very high levels, but I feel like it doesn't provide a whole lot of incentive to keep playing it beyond if you want to find out about the story and how it progresses, or if you just enjoy the moment-to-moment gameplay of fighting monsters. Which, to be fair, they do a good job of that. They have great graphics, great music and sound effects. The controls are good. Other than some server issues early on, I haven't run into any bugs with the game. So the moment-to-moment gameplay is good, but I feel like I personally play these games mostly because I like to experiment with different builds and see how I can break the systems and do interesting things with them. And I feel Diablo 4 doesn't offer a whole lot of that compared to other games. So, if I have problems with Diablo 4, what are some games that I think don't have those problems? First, Path of Exile, I think, is amazing for character building, designing your own builds. I think part of that is the massive passive tree that you get a point for each level and can modify your stats. And like Diablo 4, a lot of the passives are really minor things, but it also intersperses larger, more notable passives throughout the tree. So you have a mix of less interesting things on many levels, but then every once in a while you have a bigger bonus that you can look forward to. More importantly, they added the ascendancy system a few years back, which is its own little minor level up tree that you get basically 4 bonuses throughout your character's lifespan, 3 during the campaign and 1 in the post game. And those ascendancy bonuses are much bigger and more build defining than a regular level up would be. But it's not just the passive tree with Path of Exile that contributes to its build diversity and interesting leveling up system, but also the itemization. The game is full of many different unique items that have been put into the game over the course of many years, many of which aren't that useful or are only useful for leveling up quickly, but a lot of them provide interesting mechanics that you could design a character build around, including some pieces of equipment that give you entirely new abilities that you couldn't get any other way. Now, you may say that it's unfair to compare Diablo 4 to Path of Exile because Path of Exile is a game as a service game that's been around for many years and they just keep building and adding to it. But by the same logic, Diablo 4 is the 4th game in a long-running series, so they should have been able to. I mean, first of all, they knew that this is the kind of thing that people who play these games want. They want interesting items and the ability to customize their character and make it their own. But also they had 3 previous games that they could build on, and I feel like Diablo 4 is starting from scratch when it should have been well ahead of the game because of its huge pedigree. And also another game I really like in this genre is Grim Dawn, which was a game that was made by a lot of the developers of Titan Quest, which I was also a big fan of. And in Grim Dawn, their big leveling up system is that you have different classes, and after a few levels, you get the ability to multi-class. So each class in and of itself has lots of interesting abilities and passives, but then you add the ability to combine it with another class, and it has an immense amount of different possibilities. And like Path of Exile, the itemization in Grim Dawn I felt was pretty good. It has lots of interesting items. Um, it makes it very easy for you to tell if this new item is better than what you already had. So I feel like the moment-to-moment play of Grim Dawn with the leveling up is a lot better than Diablo 4 is at the moment. Also, I wanted to add uh, that with Diablo 4, I felt like there was low monster density and the monster groups were sometimes spaced out a bit further away than they needed to be. So it felt like a lot of the time I was running to the next area rather than actively fighting monsters or adjusting equipment. So I felt that was a issue with Diablo 4, and I'm guessing that uh, the mount system where you get horses to ride around the world is supposed to alleviate that somewhat, but that is not unlocked until much later in the game, and I feel like, it feels like a Band-Aid for something that shouldn't have been a problem to begin with. So Diablo 4, of course, is a big budget game, and they plan to support it with expansion packs and, you know, leagues. And so it's quite possible that over time, Diablo 4 could turn into something very different than it is now. But at the moment, I cannot recommend it. And I would instead recommend you play Path of Exile or Grim Dawn or some of the other options in the genre. So that's my opinion on Diablo 4. Feel free to chime in the comments. Tell me what you agree with. Tell me you disagree with everything. And this is Robert Boyd from Zeboyd. Keep making and playing games.
Like and subscribe, it really helps us. Thanks for watching.